you look at every aspect of their team. They're very dynamic. They're physical, explosive pitch profile stuff from the starters and some of the guys they use out of the bullpen. So, we're walking into a situation that is as good as it gets in terms of the level of competition that we're staring at in their home facility. I've never been here before, so we have our little practice slot coming up here shortly, and look forward to getting out there. I mean, it's a great roster, great program, going to be a great environment. They're still in school, if I heard correctly, so that I'm sure this will be rocking and rolling, and elite, tough, physical, high profile players on the other side. So we've got to bring everything we have to have a chance here.
Link, I guess, question about, do you have an idea? I know some of it's variable in a series like this, the pitching rotation going in, as what do you know going into the week?
I know all three of our guys are going to be in good shape. We wanted to get through this afternoon and let them do their work and make sure we were okay with how we viewed entering this thing. And of the three guys that have started, like how we would use those guys in terms of this thing may not get to the third game. So you have to prepare with every option you have based on your personnel. Probably in this case, more our personnel and their preparation than maybe what Oregon State has coming to the table in terms of their hitters. Their hitters are really good, so it doesn't really matter. Like we're going to have to navigate a really tough lineup any way you slice it. But whether we go Jamie, Joey, Jamie, and how we use Wes and how he feels this afternoon, and quite frankly, how Jamie feels. And we know Joe, of the three, Joey's probably the freshest, right? So yesterday was a long, difficult day. Like we didn't really get to practice. So this is an important hour and a half that we have coming up. And it'll either be Jamie or Joey. And I think either way you slice it, we're going to be okay. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I think either of them would be fine. And then Wes probably bounces back better than the other two. So how we would use him if needed, you got to, if you're in a position to try to get to game three, you have to get to game three. So, Wes, I know Wes and Jamie threw extensively, but Wes seems to bounce back. And if we had to manipulate, use him somehow, we probably would need to do it. But we need to get through our little practice here, and it's right across the street. But we didn't get to do anything yesterday. Yesterday was pretty tough. So we'll see what happens here in the next couple hours.
Link, you guys have obviously done a West Coast road trip once this season, but I know this is a little bit further. Did that kind of give you guys something to base off, like the preparation, the practice? It's such a tough road trip, like you said, but does that trip to Cal give you guys something to work with on how you want to prepare for this weekend?
Well, we did learn a lot, and that was really difficult because we had to do a commercial trip. These things are so costly. And then, the Cal trip, we ended up staying an extra day on the front end and an extra night on the back end to just try to survive the thing. And when you can jump on a charter, it's a little bit easier just to go 5.5 hours, and there you go. They learned that when it looks like on your watch that it's midnight and it says 9 o'clock on your phone, like the reset of trying to stay up a little bit longer because you get tired. Like you look down at your phone and it's telling you it's 9 o'clock and it's daylight, but your body's telling you I'm tired. So you have to try to almost stretch it. And we learned that, and making sure you eat probably 4 meals yesterday was something we thought was right. So we made sure we had really an extra meal on the plane, and then a meal when we got here. So you're almost somehow stacking an extra meal just to keep up with the change. And, hopefully it goes a little bit better. Cal was tough. And there's no way around the distance and the difficulty of that, but it was easier by far with the charter. You're Tallahassee to here, and then about an hour from Eugene to Corvallis, and here we are. So I think we're a little bit more seasoned for it this go around. Doesn't mean it's easy, but you've at least lived it once.
I think this is your I think first Super on the road with Florida State, but you've had experience at Notre Dame. The one at Tennessee where you guys won with Notre Dame, and then the Mississippi State one before that. What's different about Super Regionals on the road when you're trying to win a best 2 out of 3 and in someone else's park and it's hostile and all that?
Well, you really have to have tunnel vision, and there may be entering the competition less peripheral distraction in a roundabout way because we're here in a hotel. You're not at home with people getting to you and things that come up when you're at home. And for me, I'm not worried about the facility and the stuff that's going on in the field and the lightning and all of the other things that come up. So sometimes being on the road simplifies the process, but then when you walk out there and you feel like the world's against you in the venue, Knoxville and Starkville and clearly this, and I've had to deal with it in Chapel Hill. Those are some tough places to walk in, and the noise at different moments in the games, it's different. Like it's almost it's pulling against you a little bit than when you're at Hauser. It's working for you in some respects. But we build our systems, nonverbal and other things to manage playing when the volume doesn't allow ease of communication. You have to be able to play the game and coach the game and communicate even when the noise and the volume and things are against you at the timing of those aspects of it. So we build it for this. Does that mean it's easy? Absolutely not. But this isn't going to phase the systematic part of what we do. It doesn't mean the level of competition is not very difficult. I mean, that's a national championship team on the other side of it in all of those situations. But we're trying to build things for these sorts of series.
Coach, how difficult is it for you and your staff to not only be preparing for a super regional right now, but also the portal just opened this week? And how are you guys managing the roster? The roster obviously coming into Corvallis and then the portal happening around you at the same time.
To think this is where we've landed in college athletics and what we're dealing with right now is unthinkable. The timing of it, the last 4 years of this, I cannot tell you how hard this is. I cannot tell you the hours and hours and hours and hours. And yesterday and this morning, and I walked out of a room. We just have to get a separate hotel room where we can sit and watch video and phone call. And, we're trying to do scouting reports and look at things. And I cannot tell you the layers of difficulty of this and the timing of it. It doesn't seem like it could be worse. But the good thing is you are playing, and you're playing to win a national championship, and there's 16 of us left. And we got a really tough draw. It's a tough draw. If you want to have this conversation next year at this time, if we want to be on this interview, we have no choice. Like, you're trying to look at what we're going to lose. I mean, I hope we end up with the Golden Spikes winner. I hope these guys are drafted as high as they could possibly be drafted. We're going to lose a lot. So if you're developing and coaching and working and executing properly, there's going to be an exodus. Like, look at the guys that left last year. Look at what's going to happen in the draft this year. We have to try to continue this, but it is exhausting for us as coaches, staff, dealing with roster management and the fact that the rosters essentially in most of the sports flip 50% or more every year. I can't tell you guys how hard it is. And when you got into coaching, the way you manage things and the scholarshiping structure and the ability to not transfer, we've gone 180 degrees in the other direction. And it is what it is. There's nothing we can do to change it at the moment. We were hoping the House settlement ruling had come down. It looks like that's been pushed down the road for another few weeks. To say that it's exhausting would be an understatement.
Coach, wanted to talk to you about Miles Bailey. Obviously, doing a story on him this week, but just you talked a little bit about his growth over regionals last week, and just the way that he listens and that he kind of takes everything in. What have you seen from him from week one, getting him on campus to now, and just how he's really come into his own?
Well, I recognize the intelligence and the character. You know that the moment you talk to him. Like, he's got high level thinking, high character, work ethic. Then you're trying to set him mechanically in the best possible position to do things properly at the plate. And he seemed to early on find himself in different positions. And I don't think it was intentional. It just sometimes in athletics, your mechanics drift without you even really knowing it. So once we settled in on, all right, this is really what it should look like, and that was probably early in the fall, then it was pitch selection and aggression. And to be honest with you, Allison, at times he wasn't aggressive enough. Like, he took so many good hittable pitches, and you have to swing and be aggressive and have the ability to take and try to lay off things that don't really look right. But it was almost so overly selective that he wasn't giving himself a chance to really do some things at the plate. I think he moved past that, and I think honestly it got into the season a little bit, and he continued to learn and feel it, and you start to see how you're matched up with some of the left-handed pitching that he and Max and those guys are going to face, and he's hung in there and handled it really well. Hadn't played a lot of first base. It didn't take me very long to realize that with the athleticism, the mobility, the physical size, if you have a big first baseman, it helps, but you have to be athletic. And he's as good as I've seen, and he's a freshman, and he's still learning. But he's done some things over there with range and movement and around the bag and when to jump and when not to jump, just smart things that he's learned how to do. And we work really hard. You saw a snapshot of it at practice the other day. Like, these are hundreds of days of those reps adding up. So we hope that it helps. And I can't say enough about the growth in every area, the aggressiveness at the plate, the consistency with what he's doing mechanically, the progression at first base, runs the bases hard, thinks, works ahead of schedule for a freshman. I mean, this is a freshman. When you look at the numbers, anybody would take it, but to think this is an entering freshman, that's in a position to play for a national championship. We're in the Sweet 16, and he's been a standout performer during the toughest part of our season. It sure is fun, Allison.
To see it click too. How neat is that for you as a coach to see kind of those wheels turn and for it to click and for him to get it the way that he has?
Heck yeah, it's great. And the moments he's delivered, you can go back and some of the clutch hits that he's had. North Carolina, maybe a couple, the ACC tournament, Mississippi State, a couple hits in the regional, and you could just kind of backtrack this thing from what's happened in the last game, rewind the tape a little bit. He's owned the moment, and on top of the stats, like, to look at how timely some of this is, it's buried in good stats. But I think those of us that cover do recognize it. And it's why you coach. Like, you want to see these young men grow and leave your program as better men. And you want to see the baseball product become better for them too. And then you feel like when a player of that talent decides to come to campus and give it 2 years instead of maybe signing professionally, you do feel as a coach an obligation to make sure that product is better too, and he's positioned better for the draft. And I want to see these guys leave and go into professional baseball and function. And the Cam Smith stories, that's pretty cool that somebody thought that kid was prepared enough to go right to the major leagues. And I think you're going to see that more and more as players in college baseball bypass the draft a little bit. The draft is shorter, so more of them are on campus. And he's a great example of what happens when you get some training repetition, the practices that you've seen us do, and combine that with high-level games, and then you should have a better product at the end of it.
Link, jumping back, taking you back a little to the portal. I'm curious what you have in mind. What would there's no perfect solution, I'm sure. What would your solution be? Maybe aligning maybe closer with the draft deadline with the portal window? Because I know that's a whole other angle you didn't even get into if you're managing that as you're adding portal guys who might not even make the campus.
Kurt, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I guess I've been in this situation for the last 5 years in these super regionals, and you feel like one of these is almost a once in a lifetime, and there is an obligation to try to stack good years. And if you whiff right now with the transfer thing, you're not going to be able to do this. If you back this thing up a week, does that clear the deck a little bit? These teams are you're having exit meetings. Like, think about the exit meetings that are going on, the finality of college baseball, because school's out. So you get back from wherever you are, if you're at home and your regional ends, and you have 40 exit meetings. Some of them are going to be graduated players and juniors that are going to be drafted, but those are tough meetings. And then the portal, the opening of the portal, the timing of that is just so difficult, and they're trying to leave campus. I don't know. I don't know if a week later would help. The combination of the NIL having no rules, like we really don't have any NIL guardrails right now, in all sports. The timing of it, I don't know that there is a better time. Our Omaha experience last year, it revolved around trying to compete for a national championship, which is hard by itself, with the stuff that's coming at you in the portal. And sometimes you feel like there's people having visits and getting commitments, and there's people on campuses right now that have these portal guys already visiting, and we're 2,000 miles away from campus. And I wouldn't trade the position our program is in. Don't get me wrong, but you do feel the inundation of work and the things that our staff's trying to juggle as you prepare, and it is not easy. If you pushed it back a week, is that better? Maybe. The draft used to be going on right now, right? The draft was usually in the first week of June, and then that thing during COVID got pushed way back. So I think having those answers sooner would also help things. But it's tangled. It is tangled. And the fact that our high school recruits, we're really the only sport they don't have to show up. So all the high school kids we have, how many of those guys are actually going to make it to campus? We were dealing with Summer Bridge right now, because the Summer Bridge guys on board pretty soon, the class scheduling and what they're going to do. And then the draft occurs really during that. So that's how it's going for us right now. It's tricky.
Link, I know last week you said you don't want to get too cute when it comes to thinking about your pitchers, but that concept, along with the fact that if you look at this bracket, the top 2 seeds have been eliminated, another top 8 seeds also eliminated, so 3 of the top 8. Does the fact that this tournament feels as wide open as it maybe ever has, or at least here in recent history, does that factor at all into, I guess, how cute you feel you maybe can get out there this weekend with your arms?
Not really. I'm worried about our personnel. Number one, what is in the best interest of our personnel to be the best versions of themselves? Number one, the health and safety of those guys, that's a tie. So being the best version of yourselves and being safe and logical with what you're asking these high level arms to do, I owe it to them to make sure we do that right. That's why I'm going to use every possible workout and opportunity to assess where we are, gauge it, feel it, think it through, and then go. To say getting cute, I maybe that's the incorrect term if I used it. I want to be just smart and prudent and efficient and at some point you have to, if you're in survival mode, you have to survive. If you can put a good team away and try not to get it to game 3, I think we might have done something like that with Whitaker last year, honestly. If I remember right? The back end of the second game, we had a decision to make. This is a 3-inning game. Do I want to play a 3-inning game right now to win it, or do I want to make sure I hold somebody for the final game? It seemed like let's just play 3 innings and let's throw Whitaker and see what happens in this little 3-inning short game we have left. Then let's try to end it right now. So I kind of go on my feel, and I don't have to decide just yet. I want to be smart, and I'm going to lean on Micah, and those guys were working on all kinds of stuff right down the hallway when I walked out. So we'll see what practice brings us. That's an important piece of work for the guys, and we'll go with it. And I'm going to do what I think is best for the individuals, the program, and then we have to deal with a tough Oregon State team as a secondary piece of what I think is best for our own guys.
Any other questions for Coach?
One other thing, Charlie. Coach, I almost hate to ask this, but I told you I'd ask you once a month. I know we're at the end of pretty much the season here. Any chance Cam Leiter puts on a Florida State jersey in the 2025 season? What's left of it?
It sure doesn't look like we're headed in that direction. We thought there was a chance. But there's a lot of high-level people involved in the care and the rehab, and there's certain benchmarks and steps that they want to see achieved, and we're not quite at that point yet.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Anything else for Coach from local media?
Thanks, Link.
Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Am I staying on here, Charlie?
Yes, we'll stay on with the folks from ESPN.